you haven't already, hit the like button. It is chaos out here at Midsummer Scream. It's a controlled chaos, but it's chaos.
Awesome panel. Hey, thank you, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time this year.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very
Have
much.
a good day.
Are you going to here tomorrow?
Hell yeah!
Come Saturday at the pan SMU.
I for sure will. Oh yeah. Shout out to Pride Fest. Can everybody hear me? Do we have good internet? How we look? How we looking? Fires? Awesome. Like, if you don't have a Verizon phone here at the Long Beach Convention Center, your internet is just terrible.
Texas is getting Cinema Slasher, but they're using the Waxworks picture.
I'm just gonna no comment. No comment, yeah. I'm gonna no comment on that. Everybody, we are live for Knott's Scary Farm Midsummer Scream panel. I just want to be upfront. I don't think they're announcing anything cool. All of that will be on Tuesday, and we will be live streaming on Tuesday the announcement, which they call Nightmares Revealed. And Nightmares Revealed, sadly, it's a sold-out event, so you can't buy a ticket to it anymore. But for the people that did buy a ticket, you're in for a great night. Nightmares Reveal is always a badass experience. Ghost Town Alive is going to come to life. We're going to obviously get the announcement for all the new stuff coming. Everything will be announced literally on Tuesday. And I think they even do like a lights on tour of stuff. So we got a lot to do. A lot to do that day. Yeah. We got Jay messaging us. Cinema Slasher in Texas makes no sense. Yeah, that's kind of been the talk today about, I guess, Cinema Slasher going to a different park, I guess. Most importantly, Cinema Slasher leaving Knott. It's going to Six Flags. Alright, let me zoom in and see how it's looking.
wished us to supply you with other buttons, and we were not to be completely cast away from home, so we left the university to work on Apple. Now, what do you know?
Just because when I zoom in, I'm like right on it. I'll be in the back. I'll be in the back. I think there's a way better view just to be standing.
While recording of this presentation is allowed, we do ask that your camera or streaming device remain at or below shoulder level, not blocking the view of anyone behind you. Thank you for your cooperation and for being considerate of those around you. Enjoy the show. Please welcome to the stage Wardrobe Manager Bill Meyer, Manager of Art Decor Jeff Shattuck, Creative Designer John Aspirin, Creative Designer Daniel Miller, and your host for this panel presentation, Associate Producer Pasta Berkey.
I gotta get my notes, give me a second. So, thank you all for joining us. We're very excited, and the first thing we kind of want to talk about is, you know, Scary Farm is the granddaddy of all Halloween events, and sometimes things have to leave. I know. So the first maze we want to talk about returning to the fog will be... mastermind behind the Grimoire. Tell us a little bit about how this got started and some research that you went into it.
Sure. You know, the crazy thing is, you know, when it comes to, I think just about anything that we do, we're always influenced, right? For me, I'm a huge, you know, I love watching movies, I love comic books. I love a lot of comic books, video games and things of that sort, but I think growing up, I think there's a handful of movies, right, that really resonated with me, and a lot of them, movies such as like The Evil Dead, and then there's also other movies too that kind of sort of really influenced me, you know, things like Goonies, Sandlot, Stand By Me, and even television shows like Stranger Things, and all those things have something in common that kind of you sort of see in the maze. And then one of the things too, and I will take just a second just talking about this, when we were during COVID and prior to COVID, there was a lot of, you know, informative changes that we had to do in terms of what we normally had to do, you know, with distance and so on and so forth. And so with the Grimoire and what influenced all that, I think aside from just like the movies and the video games, what was going on at the time really shaped what we had to do. And one thing that you don't see in here too is Kurt Kleinman he created these incredible black and white plays that Ken Parks during time turned me on to, and it was one of those things that really started the wheel, and it influenced a lot of what we do. Over at the Pegasus Theater, he does like these plays, these black and white plays, like these spoofs of the 30s, 40s, and 50s American movies that sort of have and front presenting these black and white plays that just, you really see it in what we explored in Grimoire.
Well, I mean, if you've ever been into the Grimoire, which I hope you guys all have, if you're not, you should come by and see it before it leaves, it's very thematic. It has a whole, it's almost like you're walking through a movie. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, when we were starting to build Grimoire, the storyboards, it kind of like, you took all of this information and you turned it into something unique. Can you give us a little bit more detail on how you ended up shaping the story of Grimm?
Yeah, you know, with Grimoire, you know, we wanted to sort of take guests through this journey of something that, you know, going back maybe 8 or 9 years ago, the creative studio, you know, it's important to say that we, you know, it started off with our team, and you from front-facing side of things, you really didn't see it until it slowly started to see, well, there's scare zones, and the mazes inside of our scare zones are kind of closely tied in. And when we were laying down the earlier groundwork of our Scary Farm lore, one of the things that, at the time, were, you know, just not even force-feeding guests, were like, the idea of ancient relics was something I wanted to really introduce. And things over the years, from skeleton keys down to the witch's cauldron, and even down to when I wrote the backstory to the train conductor, and when I was writing out and developing the character and then the idea of the lanterns, all this came about to where prior to the Grimoire, maybe years before that, it all kind of sort of led up to, well, what's our version of the Necronomicon? And how can we kind of sort of cross space and time with something while we have these incredible standalone IPs and we have this crazy lore, but somehow we have our own little cinematic universe going on at Scary Farm, right? Yeah.
So
it's kind of cool.
It's kind of crazy. So we went from storyboards, and if I remember anything from Grimoire, when it came to the elevations, this maze was originally designed for a completely different space. It 100% was not supposed to be in the Mystery Lodge, and it was supposed to be a backstage maze when we're talking about these worlds we're creating. So can you talk about a little bit of the challenging, like, because it happened quick that we had to redo this entire area?
You know, when COVID hit, it made us shift the way we had to think, and you know, the maze is available. And the crazy thing is, we never talked about this in public, but where the Grimoire currently is was supposed to be the original location of Bloodline 1842. One of the things that Ken and the rest of the team at the time, when we were looking at the success of Special Ops Infected, because it was such a linear experience and it was a zombie shooting experience, some of the dynamics and the formula of what that worked over there kind of sort of, you know, was where Bloodline was supposed to be, but then we had to do the switch.
Yeah.
And then in that moment in time, within a short period of time, we had to create the Grimoire.
An entire new maze.
A new maze.
So this is the ground plan for Grimm in its current state, and it did not look like this originally. So if you kind of take a look, that it's kind of a long linear maze. John, when we originally, can you tell us a little bit about like when you were reshaping? Essentially, you designed a maze twice.
Well, yeah, we had to think of all the things beyond just the design side of things. You know, there's an equal play going on the operational side. So when it came down to our break areas for our talent, there was a lot of social spacing that we had to do backstage. And so normally on any given circumstance, we have our tents lined up next to each other where one venue is right next to each other. But because of COVID and coming out of COVID, we had to factor in
spacing,
the space inside Grimoire to try to spread out our cast as much as possible. So it's kind of cool. And then there's always a toss-up of, should we use the Mystery Lodge theater and pre-show and things of that sort. So it was kind of, it was a huge combination of all those things.
It was definitely challenging to get up onto the ground, but it did come out really well in my opinion. So within the Grimoire, you created these different sort of glowing worlds, and if you ever walk through the maze, you'll see that there's a lot of glow element that comes from the Grimoire. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with this glow?
I think what it was definitely a team effort. My partner Gus Kruger, who I believe is in here, also helped co-design this, and together, along with the rest of our creative team, we had Tyler Scrivener and Andy Gonzalez help out with some of the designing of the space. But a lot of it, we were trying to be purposeful in our design approach then, and knowing that time was against us, we had to try to figure out, okay, what can we do to try to paint and create signature things that you would probably see in an adventure of your favorite characters from Goonies going on. And so things such as the log cabin and the ravine, and there was the tree house. There was all these organic elements that we really had to try to dive into and capture. And although some of the stuff is front facing, looks pretty good, it was really what can we do to try to sell that story beat as much as we could. We had our incredible lighting designer Harrison come through, and we leaned on him and what he could do with the lighting. We had our audio designer, we had Dickie, and then we also had Rob Perez help out with shaping all the audio stuff. So succinctly, all together, we wanted to try to have all those elements, try to really carry out this all these story beats in the Grimoire.
So when creating, we have the tech side, we have the ground plan. The next thing that really brings the maze together are the characters. And if you walk through Grimoire, there's kind of two different sides. You have the real world color side, and then you have these black and white scenes. How did these characters that you created, how did you pick them? How did you come up with the interesting concept of walking into a black and white world to show that you entered the glow of the Grimoire?
Yeah, I think the characters, when we're creating our stories, we're trying to find something that the guests can relate to, and some of the things that really resonated with me that helped shape the storyline. Number one was a timeline when this takes place, but it was also maybe the camaraderie that you see in some of those films that influenced me. The one thing that Stranger Things, the one thing that Stand By Me, that Sandlot, that the Goonies all had in common is friendship. And we wanted to create an interesting dynamics between the three human characters that you see at the beginning and then also throughout the maze. And it was almost one of those vulnerable moments where, hey, I used to be that dude, or I knew a friend like that. And in terms of the black and white world, that also allowed us to switch positions and contrast them so much that, okay, well, not only are they in black and white, but we're able to capture a certain timeline, and that's really what the Grimoire was. The Grimoire was our ability to somehow find out where this Grimoire's traveled through different times and spaces. And, in terms of the visual aspect of it, our paint team and our wardrobe team did a fantastic job. I know Bill and Tim and the rest of the crew in our wardrobe really worked hand in hand in creating these different characters, and a lot of it is, I'll draw out like a concept like our hellhounds, and then by the time it gets into the hands of the wardrobe and their crew, they add their little 2 cents into, and their creative juices really start flowing. And big shouts out to Michael, who is one of our sculptors for our mask, did a fantastic job along with the rest of the crew. And so you get sort of this nice little mixture of characters.
Now I have to know, out of all the characters in the Grimoire, who's your favorite?
You know what? I'm going to say Sammy.
Sammy's
Sammy
your favorite?
in this one, yes.
All right. So now we have the maze, we have the base, we have the characters, and tell us a little bit about Scare School and bringing this maze to life. I mean, we were in the trenches up until the last minute, trying to, we were there opening night, making sure the characters were in place. Tell us a little bit about it.
Scare School's fun. We have our venue supervisors, and we're very lucky that on the first year of Grimoire, we had 2 really talented venue supervisors that worked really well with the talent. And I think the great thing about what we had with the Grimoire was a cast that was incredibly talented.
They were so stoked to
They
be
were
in
the
it.
best cast that I've had the chance to just see out the gate, take real ownership of it. And I think, especially the kid characters, you know, there was a little bit of their own themselves, you know, that you could see in that character. And I think that's what, for me, really made it extremely special. But the Scare School, that whole experience, and just watching the talent really own these characters, I think was really fun.
So you know at Knott's Scary Farm, we love a good Easter egg. There are plenty of hidden secrets that are in Grimoire. What are some of your favorites? Because I can tell you mine when you're done.
Okay, so you know, Jeff Tucker, he wrote this incredible and directed Invitation to Terror, which was the year before. I mean, when we talk about planting seeds years and years ahead before we reveal it to the guest, it was a nice opportunity for us to kind of sort of hint at it. And it was a show that we had at the Mystery Lodge Theater. There's a lot of folks also that are very, how would you say, very aware of our Scary Farm lore, the lore around Sarah Marshall. And so, you know, we got a chance to introduce that in Origins at the very end when you see Sarah Marshall flying around you.
The Grimoire.
The Grimoire. 8 Fingers 9, there's a little Easter egg that's in there. There's the comic books that are in there, but I think the coolest Easter egg is probably circling back to Special Ops Infected, which was my first maze that I had a chance to design at Scary Farm. And this whole idea that this takes place, that Scary Farm, or that Special Ops Infected took place in present day Calico. Ghost Town Streets takes place in Calico in 1885, post that. And then this one took us back to Calico in 87. So you see in all these signage, the county that we use in the same signage that I did in Special Ops Infected, that's in there. And then, you know, the last one, there's a nice little shout out to my son.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. Absolutely bar none, my favorite one. But yeah, this is
when you're
cool
walking
experience.
through the 1950s area, Cameron is John's son, and I think it's hilarious that the dad is like, the whole thing is about slaughtering a family, and like, here's my son. It just
Absolutely.
kills me. So, to close us out, do you have any final thoughts about letting go of Grimm? Do you have anything, the impact of that maze that it really brought to Scary Farm? I thought it was a different piece of maze that really kind of changed some things.
You know, I think it's I think we, in terms of the creative studio, I think we opened up the possibilities of telling additional stories with the idea of ancient relics. And you know, I'm super excited to know that, you know, we're closing the chapter on the Grimoire, this chapter, but I mean, who knows, you might see the Grimoire later down the line, right? So
You never know when it'll show up. All right, and the next maze to return to the fog will be... That's right, Mesmer. Final year this year, Daniel Miller. Oh my goodness gracious. In the twisted mind of Daniel Miller, you brought us Mesmer.
Yep.
You sure did. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with Mesmer. Like, where did this come from?
Well, I really love horror films. And one of my favorite horror films that year that I saw was Get Out. And Get Out had this great concept of hypnotism. And I just watching the audience react to this and like completely enthralled and believing that so much can happen under hypnosis, that I said, you know what? This is amazing. This is so cool that we can get people to do things under hypnosis. There's a lot of sources to this, but probably Get Out was the biggest one. But we also love at Knott's Scary Farm to partner our mazes to the locations that we were at. And this maze is closest to Carnival, which is sort of like a Dust Bowl 1930s maze. The very first time I pitched this, it actually was supposed to go into Wilderness Dance Hall. and it was supposed to be like a snake oil salesman.
Oh, I remember Mr. Murphy.
So it was supposed to be, in fact, I was pitching the idea that everyone get a little bit of like grape juice, and like they would drink it, and then everything would be hallucinations. This
Don't take anything he gives you.
This style of maze is very, I love this style of maze, which is the delirium nightmare style of maze, which is based off of great illusions, or illusions, that you're seeing. So that was a big focus of what we did. But I really wanted to capture that 1930s Dust Bowl hypnotism show, which would, cross the Midwest and be kind of horrific. So that's the kind of the spine of what Mesmer was. A really dark hypnotist show and sort of a freak show. So the whole basis of it is that we hypnotize someone so deeply that we'll murder them, but they're still alive. So,
Yay, murder.
So we're going into each of their sort of versions of hell or versions of their nightmares. So we have all kinds of characters. We started this a long time ago. Because of COVID, we had to split this in two. So the basis, the first part of the maze kind of was all built, and as the ground plan showing. And we basically, because of COVID, had to delay and pick it up again.
Well, it was really interesting because we did build a lot of this, or we didn't build any of it, I should say. We drafted a lot of it behind a screen. So we were having conversations through Zoom. How did you manage to build a maze through a screen, really? Like, we weren't able to go check sites, so you kind of just had to play Tetris.
A little bit. I mean, actually, there wasn't, like, a third of it was built. And then they completely stopped it. And then we just sat there and watched it. Just because, everyone experienced COVID, so.
Yeah.
But yes, I had to kind of go back. It actually gave us a lot of time to really go into character development. Which, one thing I did want to mention though, that was an early on concept. One of the challenges that was given to us around this time was, let's create mazes with kind of a really cool gimmick that's kind of new to the industry. One thing, we tried it didn't exactly work, but it was going to be really cool, was I wanted the hypnotist's voice inside everyone's head.
Oh yeah, we did. That was an interesting pitch at the beginning, having everyone get headphones to listen as you walk through the maze, and you could just hear Professor Mesmer in your head.
Yeah. So I had these IR headphones giving out to everyone, but of course, because of COVID, everyone was very concerned. So we basically we challenged the audio team to get as close as possible to separate the voice in your head and the music and sound effects above you.
Think like a really messed up silent disco.
Yes.
So then after we have this ground plan, we built it to production and some of these elevations, and you really had some interesting areas in this maze. If you walk through it, there's plexiglass floors, there's swinging hallways, there's animatronics. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with this mirror and some of the things you have on the screen.
I really want to go back to what story is and the story of how Mesmer is hypnotizing the entire audience, and how I wanted to reflect that hypnotism through either a pendulum. And I said, no one I've ever seen has ever done like a pendulum motion room, where an entire room
sways
is swaying under you. And I just want to try to repeat all those motifs all throughout the maze to really enforce hypnotism.
If you do walk through Mesmer, which I hope you do, it's look at some of there is pendulums quite a bit. There's a lot of movement that get that sway back and forth. So then you took this all to production. Like there's a twisting hallway, there's mirrors, there's this crazy giant balloon, there's plexiglass floors. What did our production team think when you gave them all of this?
Well, I mean, it was definitely a challenge, but it was kind of beautiful, and I think they took the challenge and they ran with it. We have an incredible production team filled with painters, carpenters, croppers, they took the challenge and they loved it. It actually, that year was the only one that was actually, I think it was the only maze that
that was the only maze we built, yeah.
So they put their heart and soul into this, and it had because I felt it was a home run from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And I think no one, I mean, I got such positive feedback.
Daniel, I have a question though. What is Little Miller?
That's the closest thing to my self-portrait I've ever seen.
But if you ever walk through Mesmer, you'll see the red door, and I believe Little Miller is hanging out over before the zoetrope room. So next time you walk through Mesmer, make sure to say hi to Little Miller. So then, you know, as we touched on earlier, that we said, you know, we built this in 2020. We had all the backstory. We really got to dive into some of these characters. Tell us, I mean, we wrote pages of backstories for some of these characters, like novels. If you ever have a chance to, which I don't think any of you will, it's internal information only. But there's these huge backstories. Tell us a little bit about your characters, and then I also have to know which one is your favorite.
Well, I'll answer what my favorite one is. I'll tell you a little bit about their backstory. Spider-Boy actually is my favorite backstory. Now, literally, I went and I love mazes that have great backstories of each of the characters. Even though most of the time they don't ever get to the audience. I think in some ways they do, because when we tell the characters what their backstory is, they get energized and that energy passes on to you guys. Spider-Boy was the regurgitator, so he was a little boy who learned that he could swallow anything.
Gross.
On stage. And what he did was he would ask anyone to challenge him. And there was a jerk in the audience who said, swallow this spider egg. And he swallowed this massive spider egg. It exploded in his stomach and came up, and then all the spiders came and bit him inside of him. So,
lovely. So, as you can see, when you walk through, you'll see some of these really deranged characters. I guarantee their backstories, as somebody who has read them, is probably just as deranged. So when we have these gross group of characters, and then we have the hypnotist, and then we decide to throw them in a maze. We had to bring this maze to life. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, of course, as I mentioned before, all the problem building aspects. I'm pretty, as people know, I'm pretty in production. I'm pretty tight with my art direction. I kind of visit the maze every day, make sure everything is going.
It's called hovering.
Yeah. So, I just kind of keep a very close eye on it. And
how many people do you think are in our production house that built Mesmer? Like, what would you say the crew size was?
Well, it's an entire crew, so.
That's true. We had a lot of people building Mesmer at this time. So, as we're saying goodbye to Mesmer, do you have any thoughts about farewell and looking for things in the future?
Again, it's probably one of my favorite mazes to come out recently. And there was so much time given to it and love to it that it resonated greatly. And at first, I was worried that it was too convoluted. But like the first night I saw it open, and here's a little tidbit. I'll probably, on the new mazes I'm working on, I'll probably be at the very exit, just hearing and listening to people, and hearing what they think of it. And that one, I was so proud of it, because that was great.
They were on opening night, I remember. A little insider trip for Scary Farm on opening night of our new venues. You usually see some of our designers, or you'll see some of us standing at the exit of the maze. So instead of standing at the beginning and wishing you well, we want to hear how you really feel about it at the end. All right, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Interesting thing about Daniel Miller's maze, his maze actually inspired the current freak show posters that are in Carnival.
Yeah. So when you're walking through Carnival, which we're going to touch on in the next segment actually, is we're talking about the artwork, because there was quite a bit of artwork. But further ado, so at Scary Farm we have quite a big cast of characters, and we're going to talk to Bill about working with them. So Bill, how many characters do we costume at Not Scary Farm?
It's about, I'm going to say 880.
That's a lot of performers, and
That's 880 talent members, and then we add Scare Force, we add atmosphere, we add all the talent that are in the hanging, we add, so it's It shows it's 1,000 monsters.
So it's a pretty large operation. So there's over 1,000 people coming in and out of our central hub, and we have to keep all of them different. Whatever feel of the park. Can you touch a little bit about how you ended up making sure each character, whether they're in a maze or a street, have a different feel to them?
By all means. I mean, if we had 1,000 monsters and they were all dressed alike and you couldn't tell them apart, what would be the point of having 1,000 monsters, right?
Truth.
Exactly. So we set to make sure that every maze is identifiable as that maze, every scare zone is identifiable as that scare zone. So you can look at a character and know who they are, where they belong. Whether you're able to walk through the maze, you at least know there's a story there. You're able to put things together. We do that with color palettes, we do it with textures. In the boardwalk, all of our clowns, all of the costumes are black, white, gray, red. That is it. The color palette for their makeup, same colors. Accessories, a little bit different. We'll allow different colors on accessories, but there is a specific color palette for all of our clowns. For Ghost Town, all those colors, there's no water. All of the colors in Ghost Town need to look like they've been sitting out in the sun. They're sun faded. They were jewel rich tones at one point, but are no more. I mean, they've been out in the calico heat and the calico weather for 100 years. That's the look of that. Everything in Ghost Town, there is not a costume piece in Ghost Town that, well, there should not be.
There should not be Ghost Town people if you're in here.
It does not have scare cloth on it. In all of our Ghost Town scare cloth, it used to be you would find a rainbow of colors of scare cloth out there in Ghost Town. Now it is that dirty gray cobweb color. That is the color of our cobwebs in Ghost Town.
I feel like this is a good point. If there's 1,000 people who come in, how many are on your staff, Bill?
In my costume shop, if everybody shows up, I have 25 people. 7 of those 25 only issue uniforms to my park. The rest of them are working as dressers, as costume builders, stitchers. I've got a couple people who just take care of Charlie Brown and Snoopy year-round. That's their focus. They don't get to play in this world. So in working on these costumes, I'm going to say 12.
That's pretty impressive. So if you think about Scary Farm and those thousands of performers we do, there's only 12 people who are really working on it. So just think about that. Think about the numbers. So give it up for the work that's being done.
I will share that with you. And this time of year, we also add about 35 makeup artists a night. We have about 350 people we put into makeup every night. Again, plus Scare Force on top of that as well. We're busy folks.
We are, and we are very busy here at On Scary Farm. So with these 2 new mazes that are returning, they have very different looks to them. If you think about Mesmer and you think about Grimm, they're completely different. Can you tell us a little bit about how the challenges you had while creating these 2 different venues? Because I know we were both in COVID. I mean, I was in the shop during 2020 helping, so tell us a little bit about the process.
Yes, Pasta came by our shop quite often and worked and sewed with us. We built Mesmer during COVID. I had a different staff at that point. I had a handful of women whose families have since said, our moms are retiring, and they didn't allow them to come back after COVID. I'll be honest with you, we were their retirement job. So they came in, they worked a little bit here and there. We worked through that maze bit by bit. I don't think we worked on any character all the way through. I don't think we saw a finished character until we opened that year. Just because that was life that year. It was trying to get stuff built bit by bit. We had one person working on collars who was here Mondays, Wednesdays. We had here somebody working on bodices. They were here Tuesday, Thursday. Our staff was broken up to avoid
contamination,
Contamination, yeah. Those costumes we set, you'll notice everything is reds, but not just bright reds, but deep reds. We have burgundies, we have golds. There's a lot of patina, a lot of wear, a lot of age in our costumes to this maze. Nothing is fresh. Nothing is
straight off.
Yeah. Nothing is bright and happy.
Yeah, no, Mesmer is not a happy maze. And then you have Grimm, which well, it's not nice, haha. It's gross. And then you have Grimm, which we have these clean kids at one segment, so they need to look like they just came out of a comic book, essentially. Then you would go into this black and white world.
And in that black and white world, everything we had to look and see what we were going to build and then what we were going to purchase. I think Tim Barham, who was the manager at the time, went on Amazon and found sweaters for the women, sweaters for the men that he could find, coordinating in grayscale as well as in colors to be able to do that between the two worlds. I did the same thing for the women's sweaters. The dresses, we built 2 different sets of dress, grayscale and other. When I placed my order for wigs, my wig lady basically said, "You're buying gray wigs? Most of the people have gray hair and are looking for wigs that aren't gray." I said, "Yes, I'll take them all." So we bought so many gray wigs that year. And then we built the Hellhounds.
Yeah, the next one is pretty cool. So this is a John rendering. He designed these characters, and we brought them to life off the page. It's a pretty unique thing that we do, and this is an all in-house production, by the way. So this is really cool for our team. So tell us a little bit about building the Hellhounds.
Well, John gave us the design, and we looked at that, and we said, "This is great. How are we going to make it work?" And so what we did was I found, when we say it was in-house, I did buy, thankfully I have access to all the Ghost Town uniforms and costumes for Knott's Berry Farm. I had a new vendor that, right before we sourced this, introduced himself to me saying, "I've got a whole new line of Western shirts. I know that you do Ghost Town Alive." I'll give a plug to that as well. But maybe you'll take some of these things. Actually, I think I've got you dusters as well for your scarecrows.
We do have, yep.
And then it was those dusters that I found from this new vendor that we used for all of these coats for the Hellhounds. We took them, we built collars for them, we built leg garters for them, gaiters for them, the hands, all those pieces we put over the top of that. It is a Ghost Town duster, which by the way is the same duster that we used in Bloodline for all of those folks, but that's a different story.
We love a good duster. It's a coat moment.
It is. When it came to the masks, John had given us a face. We had one version of the face. We had another version of a mask that Michael, who was sculpting for me at the time, had sculpted. And we said, we'll never be able to get enough masks produced with just these. And so I asked Michael to go ahead and do this and give me the 2 faces that would be halfway between. And he came up with 4 faces. So if you go through and you look at the Hellhounds, we've got 4 different variations on it. Here you've got Matt, who's in the middle photograph there. He's touching up some of those. Yes, we produce all of those masks in our park.
So you'll never see them anywhere else except for in the grid.
Nope. And when it's gone, I'll be honest with you, we'll probably find a way to repurpose these masks because they're great.
They are.
Just repainted, we'll find a different way. But yes, those are produced in our shop.
So to speak on Mesmer, so Daniel Miller decided to draw all these crazy sideshow posters, as you can see, and he turned them into costumes. So if you look, if you kind of look at the how did you do it? How did your team accomplish this? Because if I would have looked at that, I'd been like, what are we thinking here?
And that was one of those things. Back in 2020, I'm going to say it was, what was it, Friday the 13th, March 2020.
It sure was.
We had purchased fabrics for this new maze that was coming, and then the park shut down. And we basically sat there knowing what we had on the shelf, on the table, ready to work with, and we just thought about what we was going to be doing. Tim worked on drawings. He was able to go in by himself and work on these. We found bits and pieces of old, that gold vest is an old saloon vest, I believe. We pulled things from stock. There were things that were built. The Mesmer hat, Kira built that for us.
The skirt that the Vanyas wear is a true ballet skirt with the box pleating. It's a very impressive costume that she's wearing. There's the Lucindas that have all the different, like if you have a chance to walk through the maze, they have hats, they have arms, they have bands. I made leggings, like it was crazy just how many different costume pieces we put to bring this together.
When we went shopping for the fabric, we were looking for stripes, we were looking for polka dots, we were looking for paisleys, and we were looking for anything and everything that shouldn't be put together, we wanted to buy and put it together.
We sure did. All right, Bill, well, thank you. I'm going to introduce the next person. We're just throwing things up here. Don't worry about it. We'll get it later. Okay, the next one is Jeff Shattuck. So Jeff, your team has one of the craziest parts, and as we talk about transforming the park, Bill has to cost for everybody. Jeff has to transform the entire park. So if you walk through Knott's Scary Farm, there is not a single place that does not have any sort of something to it. There is scarecloth, anything. Tell us about your team and how many there are and how do you do it?
With a hope and a prayer. No. So a lot of people don't realize that we actually do transform the park starting September 2nd. We do it in approximately 2.5 weeks. We do not get to start Halloween early like they do on the mazes, which some of them are already practically finished, or they are finished. We don't get to go in and do anything until the day after Labor Day. It's a huge undertaking. I have a great team. They work very hard. We prep and we get everything lined up in the shop, and it's just in piles. And you walk into my shop, and Halloween has exploded. There's no room to walk. There's very little room to work. And once we get Halloween done, we're starting on that other holiday that's right behind it.
Yep, that's very true. So one of the signature things from Knott's Scary Farm is scarecloth. If you look, we use so much scarecloth. Can you tell us a little bit of the history of it and how much scarecloth do we really use?
So I don't know if anybody really remembers, or if they do remember. Scarecloth, when it was first introduced to Scary Farm, it didn't exist the first few years. It was introduced in 1975, and when it was first introduced, as you can see here in this picture, it was actually dyed. All of it was dyed various colors: red, blue, orange, green, purple. I mean, every color under the sun. And that's why it was also the same on all the costumes, because Park Decor was dyeing it. They were going over to Wardrobe. Wardrobe has a giant kettle, and you sit there and you boil it. And Bill has watched me do it when we do a small amount for other things. So, and actually, this year would be the 50th year of Scarecloth at Knott's Scary Farm.
How exciting! Another 50th!
We found that out today, actually. So
when you're covering these entire landmarks, how much does it use? Like how many pounds or feet of...
It's sold by the pound where we buy it from. Everybody buys it from different places. Knott's tried to keep it a huge secret for many, many, many years. Employees come and go, they walk away with the secret and share it, and then everybody tries to find it. We go through approximately 300 pounds of scarecloth a year. By the time we are done processing it, it takes about 2.5 weeks to process. It takes one person 2.5 weeks. We end up with about 16,000 pieces of scarecloth that we use. I know a lot of it disappears during haunt. There's a lot of souvenirs leaving the park.
There sure is. I've seen it. I'm like, please don't touch that. We need that for the rest of the run.
I'm okay with it because it makes our job a lot easier.
No.
The last night of Halloween.
No, oh my gosh. Please don't walk away with a piece of scarecloth. Thank you.
I'm okay with it.
Great. Jeff said I could. If that happens to me, I'm gonna be so mad at you.
I'm not there until, after park closes.
That's why it's terrible. Anyways. Please don't take the scarecloth.
No, please don't take the scarecloth. You don't want to take it with you, actually, because every single piece of scarecloth in the park is actually flame-proofed. It has to be flame-proof to be put on the buildings.
Also, don't try to light it on fire. We're not trying to give you good ideas here, okay? Thank you. Leave it on the buildings.
But yeah, it is a process. And it's my entire team, the last week of opening, just before we open, we are out there for 10 hours a night putting up scarecloth.
It's pretty impressive. So one of the biggest undertakings that you guys do would be our main gate statement. It is one of the most photographed places in the park. Tell us a little bit how this got, how did this come up with it? You take just the windmill and you turn it into this crazy thing. So let's talk about it.
Well, it actually started with us doing a small main gate statement for Boysenberry. The GM challenged me because I like your main gate statements. They need to be bigger though. They need to be more. I'm like, oh my God, how much more can we do? And so after the 50th, I was like, okay, we need a new main gate statement. because I can't put all the posters up there again because it just wouldn't make sense. So this is what we developed last year, and it actually grew, I would say about 15
It keeps
feet.
growing.
Yeah, it keeps growing.
So you put a lot of time and research into it. So where did you come up with this graveyard that took over Knott's?
So we reused our skeletons that we've had for several years, but I wanted them to be reapers, and I've gone down this whole reaper road, and I'm developing a little character sideline here. Highgate Cemetery, I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, is just, to me, one of the most amazing cemeteries in the world. It's in England, it's fantastic. Just the architecture, there's just tons and rows of crypts, and that was the inspiration for what we created for Mingate.
That's pretty impressive. So you took all of this and then you met with a concept artist. And how many different revisions did it go through before we get to where we are today?
So the top right drawing, the pencil drawing, was me talking to one of the artists that worked in my shop, and she sat and she sketched, and then I was like, okay, let's change this, let's change that. And then it came about that we wanted to turn this into a lantern trigger as well. So there's a trigger up there. A lot of people didn't know that it was there. It was kind of a hidden gem.
You'll see him in a second. So this is the final concept rendering.
That was the final concept.
And then from the concept rendering, we had to go into production.
Yes, production. It was a lot, and I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. I need more money, help, entertainment.
Entertainment and park decor work hand in hand most
We
of
do.
the season.
We work
When do you start typically creating these pieces? Because we talked about how you don't get to take the park over until after Labor Day. When does something like this start to take shape?
Well, this was built off-site by another company. This was actually produced in July, so.
All right, so somebody's building coffins in the summer month. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah. Well, John does toy shows, and I call him and say, hey, I need this cemetery thing. He's like, oh, great, something new and different. I'm in, so it's kind of fun.
All right, and then we're going to see the final piece in a second. So if you come to Scary Farm, this is one of our most photographed pieces. And there, like you said, some of the lantern activations are hidden in here. How long did this take to set up?
We set this up in approximately 2.5 nights.
2.5 nights, ladies and gentlemen, for our main state event. That's how quick his team works.
So, and then part of last year too, as well, the 50th medallion. I loved the 50th medallion, and I was trying to figure out, all right, how do I signify Not Scary Farm? Very quickly, it was something kind of cool and iconic, and I worked really hard to try to figure out a monogram of some sort, and then that is the new monogram, actually in the same frame that had the 50th logo in it, and that is kind of becoming a thing.
It is a thing. It's definitely a thing.
You will definitely see.
You will definitely see more of that moniker
Yeah.
happening on Scary Farm. So we kind of talked a little bit about the lantern activations. These are some of my favorites that are hidden in there. Can you tell me what they do and who they are?
So we have our demon violinist who's sitting up on top of a crypt. He was a really great piece that I saw in St. Louis, and I worked with the company who built it, and then we built the wings for it in-house. And then we've got our Reaper holding the lantern on the giant stick. The way this one works is you trigger it and all the candles go out and the lighting changes. There's a lightning flash, and he speaks to you about the lanterns.
He does. So if you have a lantern and you go by, you can see any of these. And then my third one, which is our final little guy, which is you would never know he was there. He's just a little guy.
I had it out in the shop, and she was like, oh my God, where did he come from?
I love him.
She goes, he's going back to my office. I have to have him.
I did. I tried to take him and he wouldn't let me, so now it's at Mingate.
I fell in love with him when I saw him, and I had to have him, and I'm putting him at the main gate, and I call him Peeper.
He's just so cute.
He actually moves back and forth, so he hides behind the tombstone, and then he pops his head out, and he hides again. So.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
it about up for us and at Scary Farm. We cannot wait to see you.
Well, hello, uglies! For those of you that don't know, we are your queens of darkness, the Boulay Brothers, and we are so thrilled to be here tonight with Not Scary Farm.
When I tell you this, I mean it. Not Scary Farm is our favorite haunt above all others. So, very important, I need you to mark your calendars right now, because in 3 days' time, on Tuesday the 19th, we will be co-hosting Not Scary Farm's Nightmares Revealed. And this is a magical night where we learn all of the gory details about this season's Halloween at Not Scary Farm.
Now, I have a little bit of bad news for you. Unfortunately, Nightmares Revealed is already sold out. However, Knott's has been generous enough to offer us some tickets to offer out to you exclusively for those in attendance tonight in the auditorium. So, yes, give it up for Knott's, everyone. So, if you want a ticket, you're going to scan the QR code that was supposed to be behind me, but isn't, but will be soon. And you'll be able to get a ticket and join us for Nightmares Revealed.
Now, the day is almost done, but not quite. So Drac and I are going to head over to the Not Scary Farm booth on the main floor. We would love to see you there. If you'd like to meet with us, have a photo, we would love that. But if we don't see you there, we'll see you at Not Scary Farm in the fall.
Very interesting. Just want to let everybody know we will be live Tuesday for Nightmares Revealed, and we'll see whatever the heck is coming to Scary Farm. Boulay Brothers? What? That came out of nowhere. They definitely brought the energy at the end. That was awesome. But thank you guys for joining. Don't forget, tomorrow, HHN, 5 p.m. I'll see you there. We're firing it down. I love y'all. Hey.